how do you get people to trust you? As a tax professional, what you do is a big deal. So trust is important because you're dealing with people's money and there are legal implications to the things that you do. So we're going to talk about this. It's a big topic. There's more ground than we can cover in just one short video, but these tips will be helpful. So I want you to stick around for a minute and think about the things that we're talking about. Let's start by saying this. The question that came in specifically was, what can I say to make people trust me? And that's not quite the right question, because it's not just about what you say. We will talk about language a little bit in a minute, but the first thing we have to acknowledge and recognize is that trust is largely subconscious. So generating trust from people, a lot of it has to do with their gut feelings, how they associate you with past experiences. And so obviously you can't control people's past experiences, but you can attempt to align yourself with what your target audience likely trusts and distance yourself from or differentiate yourself from things that they don't trust. So for most people, salespeople are not trustworthy. So you don't want to come across as a salesperson, right? That vibe that they get says they're in it for themselves, they're not in it for me. And so that creates distrust. Who do they trust? Most people trust educators, teachers. Most people trust doctors, or at least they have elevated level of trust of doctors. And so you want to associate yourself with those things that position you as like an education professional or like a prescribing doctor, an expert in authority. So you want to associate yourself with those things likely to garner trust from your target audience. Also consider that congruency matters. You need to act in a way that lines up with the words that you speak. And you need to speak in a way that lines up with what you're attempting to communicate, the values that you're putting forth and who you want your audience to believe that you are. And so your appearance matters. The language that you use, and now it depends. There's not specific language that works across the board. I mean, not necessarily, but it's more like what language works for my audience. And so you want to consider that. Obviously, every audience is a little bit different. Also, people, their subliminal trust instinct. People trust people who are like them. People trust people who are in their group or in their tribe, as if you want to call it that, right? So if you have a way of communicating, I'm like you, to your target audience, there's just subliminally communicating, I'm more likely to be trustworthy than outsiders, quote unquote, right? Also, trust is often communicable or borrowable, lendable. If you can showcase, or at least imply, people like you trust me, people that you know trust me, people that you trust already trust me, then you get to borrow that trust. You can kind of inherit that trust. Those things are kind of subliminal. Obviously, you have to put language around that, but those are ways of impacting the level of trust that you get. So another thing that really matters, we can talk a little bit about what you say, but I want you to consider first, where you say the things that you say also matters. Meaning, if you say something on Twitter, the level of trust there is different than if you say something on TV. If there's something on a blog, it's different from if you say it in a printed magazine. So it matters where you say it. Just consider that the context that your language and even who you are appears really impacts trust. So place yourself in positions and put yourself in places that are likely to lend credibility and trust versus put yourself in places that subtract from your trustworthiness. Now, it only took me 5 minutes to get to the specific question. Again, I'm not going to give you individual words or sentences to use, but I want to highlight some things that you need to include in your language to build trust. Number one, Show that you have done what your target audience wants to do as a tax professional. I mean, obviously, there's different things that tax professionals do. So, showcase. I've generated outsized tax returns legally, ethically for clients. I've gone to the IRS on behalf of my clients, stopped all the collection attempts, stopped all the harassment, not erased, but resolved some of that debt, and got my clients back on there into their regular lives, able to go back to things as normal. If you talk about the things, tell your audience, I've done what you want to do already. Then they trust. That's a place of trust, because you can do what I want. I trust you to do it for me as well. Similarly, not exactly the same. Describe the situation that your target audience is in. What's a specific lived or felt need or lived situation that they're in now, or challenge that they're facing, that you can describe in detail. Now, it's not that you're not. It's not critical that you know the situation better than your peers. What is critical is that you communicate with clarity and depth of understanding. You know where they're at. You know what they're seeing. You see what they're seeing. You've seen it before, and you know how to navigate that situation. And when you can describe their situations to them in detail, it generates trust. They say, oh, you've been here before. You've dealt with this before. You see what I see. And so that creates trust. So it's about understanding what your target audience is going through, what your ideal clients are dealing with. And when you can communicate in detail, more than what other people are doing, maybe more than feels a little comfortable, you begin to position yourself as a trustworthy person. And it's part of the educational element as well. I'm a teacher, I'm an expert, I'm an authority, but I also see you. I see where you're at. Okay, so here's another one. We talk about this a lot, but I'm gonna say it again. Tell stories. So the things we said before, you can tell the, describe a situation that your ideal client is in through a story. But anytime that you're telling stories, you're generating what neuroscientists, some have called the trust molecule, which is oxytocin. That's just something that listening to a story, getting immersed in a story, causes the brain to produce. And it generates feelings of trust on a neurological or a neurochemical level. And so telling stories and positioning all of the things that you want to say, putting as many of them as possible in story form, automatically creates trust. It also, we all know this, when we're listening to stories, you just feel connected to the person. Something that's chemical, right? And sales resistance disappears. Skepticism kind of melts away. And so stories are a key to building trust. I'll say this. When you can simplify someone's life, they want to trust you. And when you make complex things seem simple, in your mind, you trust somebody who can simplify things for you. As long as it doesn't seem like you're oversimplifying or dumbing something down, but you're bringing it to the base level so they can easily understand, that generates trust. And then, of course, proof, testimonials, awards, certifications, anything that you can brag about. I'm not saying be a braggart, but showcase. I get this, I do this, and I am a trusted authority in this area. So when you prove who you are, you prove that the things that you're talking about are true, you prove that people have gotten great results from you before, and it's easier to trust. And that's something that we're all probably constantly doing. But just keep in mind, not just about saying things. You got to back up what you say. And finally, this is just an idea, something for you to think about. More powerful than anything you say is what you show. So think of a way, see if you can find a way to demonstrate that you know how to achieve a result for your ideal client. For example, let's say you had like a particular tax form, right? Like, here's what people do wrong on this tax form. So you can demonstrate how most people do it wrong, or something that most people forget, and then demonstrate this is what you should do. And when you do this, or when you know when to do this, then you get the benefit that other people miss or that you deserve. But you've probably been missing. And so demonstration is more powerful than language itself. So think about that. Tell stories, simplify, demonstrate, prove, and bring a lot of details to show people you understand their situation. And then associate yourself with high trust things, and you're going to be much further along. Think about ways for you to do this to build trust in the hearts and minds of your ideal clients.